Hello, my name is Trelby Rayburn, and I will be discussing pages 651 to 655. The main topic is in what other ways do the clinical and legal fields interact? Mental health and legal professionals influence each other's work in many different ways. In the past 25 years, their paths have crossed in four key areas. The first area is malpractice suits. Malpractice suits are suits that charge therapists with improper conduct in the course of treatment. And there have been a few malpractice suits against therapists in recent years due to patients' attempted suicide, sexual activity with patients, negligent drug therapy, wrongful commitment, as well as other claims. One example of malpractice was improper termination. It was a case where a man was being treated for alcohol-related depression and was released early from a hospital in Alabama. 2.5 months later, this man shot and killed another person in a bar. The person that was killed, the victim's father, filed a civil suit against the psychologist, the physician, and the social worker at the hospital for improper termination. He was awarded $7 million from this case. This, however, did have a great effect on how many patients were released from the hospital before, during, and after litigation. A later study of 98 psychiatrists in Northern England found that most of them were starting to practice defense medicine. Defense medicine has been on the rise as psychiatrists are choosing certain treatments, tests, and procedures that protect them from criticisms rather than giving their patients the proper treatment that they need. The second key area is professional boundaries. In 1991, psychiatry and psychology were blurred together on the authority of prescribing drugs to patients. Both professions are very much similar in their lines of work, apart from a few differences. For a time, psychiatrists were the only practitioners that could admit patients to state hospitals. Soon after, psychologists were also given the authority to admit their patients to state hospitals. The Department of Defense set up trial training programs in the military. The authority of prescribing drugs to patients was only given to those who underwent the training, completed the necessary educational programs to achieve that certification. The American Psychologists Association made the recommendation that all practicing psychologists be given the opportunity to take the special educational program to prescribe medication if they pass them. Professional associations in the mental health world, such as psychologists, psychiatrists, and social workers, lobby and state legislation around the country for decision-making that may increase the authority of their members. The way that the mental health system interacts with different sectors of our society. The third key area is jury selection. Today, many lawyers look to clinicians for psychological advice regarding jury selection and strategies that would benefit their case. There is a new breed of specialists known as jury specialists who advise lawyers on certain jurors that would benefit their case or strategies in the development of the voir dire. It is designed to elicit the most information possible from jurors that are likely to win their support during the trial. Though lawyers are turning to clinicians for advice and strategies, it is not clear that a clinician's advice is more valid than a lawyer's intuition or expertise in the courtroom. The fourth key area is psychological research of legal topics. So there are two topics that have gained a lot of attention, and the first one is eyewitness testimony. Eyewitness testimony is one of the most influential amongst testimonies because it is often the final decision if a person is found guilty or not guilty. There is, however, a concern of how reliable and accurate eyewitness testimony is, with a growing number of wrongful convictions. Many of those convicted are on death row A number of prisoners' convictions, however, have been overturned by the reveal of DNA that has exonerated them. A whopping 75% of the wrongful convictions are largely based on mistaken eyewitness testimony. Another method of eyewitness error can be through the identification of a police lineup. This method has not been a reliable technique. Many witnesses are not absolutely certain, but may be no more than fairly sure. Also, a witness's confidence is not always related to accuracy, though it is common that eyewitnesses' memories cannot be fully relied on. There has been no change to the judicial system, reliance or respect for those witnesses' testimonies. Psychological profiles is the second method, and it has been suggested in shows and movies where psychologists are playing major roles in criminal investigations. The study of criminal behavior patterns and profiling has increased in recent years. However, it is not nearly as revealing or influential as the media would have us believe. There are limitations to profiling, though there are psychological features and traits that various criminals share. Those traits are not always present, and so applying profile information to a particular crime can be wrong and misleading. Increasingly, police are consulting with psychological profilers and appear to be helpful in the process. One example of the limitations of profiling comes from a case where a sniper terrorized the public in Washington, D.C. for 3 weeks in 2002. 10 people were dead and 3 were seriously injured. The profiling that was done was mostly by the FBI psychologist, suggesting that the sniper was working alone. It turned out that the sniper was not working alone, and that it was 2 snipers that were committing these attacks. The 2 were a 41-year-old John Allen Muhammad and a teenage boy named Lee Boyd Malvo. Another profiling that was done on these 2 were that they were believed to be white, but they were found for neither of them to be white. And that is the end of the 4 key areas of in what ways do the clinical and legal fields interact. Thank you very much.